At first glance, it looks like a scruffy wild pig with a long snout and a bad attitude. Then it turns its head, and you see it. Two massive horns curling backwards over its face like something out of a creature designer's fever dream. But those aren't horns, they're teeth. This animal is the babirusa, a pig deer from Indonesia. And the reason it's famous is also the reason it's confusing. The upper canine teeth don't just grow longer, they grow in the wrong direction, push up into the snout, pierce through the skin, and then curl backward toward the forehead. So tonight, we're solving the babirusa's dental mystery. How does this happen? What are those tusks actually for? And why would evolution ever allow a design that looks like it could backfire? Because with babirusa, it's not just weird, there's a function here, and a rare, nasty downside. Babirusas live on Indonesian islands around Sulawesi, in forests and swampy areas where mud and water are never far away. They're not giant animals, but they carry themselves like they own the place. And the first thing to know is this: not every babirusa looks the same. There are multiple babirusa species, and the dramatic curling tusks most people recognise are most obvious in adult males. Females can have much smaller canines, and sometimes they're reduced enough that you'll barely notice them. So when people picture the babirusa, the one that looks like it's wearing tooth antlers, they're usually picturing a mature male. Now let's get into the real mystery. What exactly are those tusks, and how do they end up outside the face? Babirusa tusks are canine teeth. That matters because canines in many animals are shaped by dominance, fighting, and display. But babirusa canines take it to an extreme. The lower canines grow upward and out past the mouth like traditional tusks. Those lower tusks are the ones that can actually do damage in a serious clash. But the upper canines are the part that breaks your brain. They don't grow forward like a boar's. They grow upward into the top of the snout and then curve back. Over time, they can pierce through the skin and start curling toward the forehead. It's not a horn growing from the skull, it's a tooth taking the wrong exit. And the teeth don't politely stop once they look impressive. They keep growing. So the story becomes a race between growth and wear. How fast the tusks grow and whether they get ground down or snapped during normal life. Which leads to the obvious question: if those upper tusks curl backward, what are they actually for? The simplest answer is that babirusa tusks are tied to male competition, males competing with other males for status and breeding access. Babirusas do fight, and those tusks are part of that story, but the upper tusks are awkward weapons. They curve backward, which makes them less like a stabbing blade and more like a structure built to survive impact. That's why one of the strongest explanations is that the upper tusks act like a shield and a display. They may help protect the face during clashes, and they also send a message from a distance. This male is mature, armed, and not worth testing. And here's the key detail. In nature, intimidation isn't a bonus, it's the whole point. The best fight is the one that never starts. So, the upper tusks don't need to be perfect weapons to matter. They just need to change the odds, make rivals hesitate, make females notice, and keep the male in the game. But there's a darker twist to that, because if the tusks are built on continuous growth, what happens when they don't wear down the way they're supposed to? Here's the part that makes the babirusa more than just a bizarre looking animal, because those upper tusks can keep growing. And because they curve backward, in rare cases, they can become dangerous to the babirusa itself. Most of the time, life prevents that. The tusks wear down, they snap, they break in fights, or get damaged through normal movement. It's rough, but it keeps the growth from turning into a problem. But if the tusks don't break, and if they keep curling, there are reports and expert notes that they can grow far enough to press into and in rare cases even pierce parts of the skull region. That's not typical. It's not what normally happens, but the fact that it can happen at all is the point. The babirusa isn't built for comfort. It's shaped by competition and display. It rides a thin line between impressive and too much. It's also a clean reminder of what evolution actually does. It doesn't design the safest version. It keeps what wins often enough to survive. So now let's zoom out. Because if this animal is optimized for competition, what does its everyday life actually look like? Babirusas spend a lot of time near wet ground. They wallow in mud and shallow water, which helps them cool down and deal with parasites. If you watch them long enough, you'll see the routine: foraging, moving through thick greenery, pausing to wallow, then wandering again. Socially, you often see females and young together in groups, while adult males are more likely to be alone. That difference matters, because it tells you what those tusks are really about. Adult males are the ones carrying the billboard, and they're the ones most likely to settle things with intimidation or force. And that's what makes the babirusa so strange. It's not just a pig with a weird face. It's an animal whose body advertises its life strategy: survive, compete, and stand out. But even an animal that looks this mythic can still be fragile in one very ordinary way. The Sulawesi babirusa is listed as vulnerable, and the main threats are familiar: habitat loss and hunting pressure. When forests are cut, broken up, or converted, animals that rely on dense habitat and predictable water access get squeezed into smaller pockets. And when populations get fragmented, recovery gets harder because groups can't mix, and local declines don't get rescued by newcomers. Babirusas also face hunting in parts of their range, and because they don't reproduce at an extreme pace, it doesn't take much pressure to push numbers down faster than they can recover. That's the irony. The babirusa's tusks make it look like an indestructible fantasy beast, but its real threats aren't predators. It's roads, habitat conversion, and people. And the difference between rare animal and lost animal is usually boring. It's whether the habitat stays connected and whether hunting pressure stays low enough for populations to rebuild. So what is the babirusa? It's not a pig with horns. It's a pig with teeth that refuse to behave like teeth. The upper tusks are likely a mix of display and protection, built to intimidate and survive clashes, while the lower tusks are the ones that actually do real damage. And because those teeth can keep growing, the babirusa is also proof that nature doesn't aim for comfort, it aims for results. If you had to describe it in one line, it's this: the babirusa is what happens when evolution turns dentistry into a status symbol. Wild ones, what's your call? Are those tusks a genius dominance tool, or the most ridiculous design flaw in mammals? And if you want another behaviour that looks adorable but has a brutal survival reason behind it, watch my video about the Japanese snow monkeys next. It is a must see.